Ahoy! And welcome to the Boating Hour with Captain Rick. The Boating Hour brings you the latest and greatest essential information about everything that sails, floats, or motors upon the high seas of Southern California. From landlubbers to old salts, there'll be something for everyone. So climb aboard and get ready to sail with Captain Rick.
Ahoy out there and welcome to the Boating Hour. I'm Captain Rick, and I want to thank you for joining us here on AM 870. We're here every Saturday at 4 p.m., and please be sure to visit us on the web at theboatinghour.com, and now on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble, The Boating Hour with Captain Rick. Thanks to our sponsors for our show today. For a healthy gut, the best probiotic on the market, Livia One Probiotics, natural, organic, and allergen-free. And Raycom Radios, reliable two-way radio communications throughout Southern California. Raycom Radios. Today we got a special guest, my good friend Miles from the Marina Del Rey Anglers. Thanks for joining us, Miles.
Thanks for having me, Rick. How are you doing today?
I'm excited to have you. I'm doing great. And I want to do a recap before we start and talk about the stuff you do. I want to talk about, your booth at the Hall show, the formerly Bart Hall. Now I guess he's rebranded. What does he call it now? The Hall Outdoor Adventure Show?
Yeah, the Hall Family Show is put on the Outdoor Expo down in Long Beach a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it was a great show. I had so much fun walking around. I'm ready to be a fisherman. You know what I'm going to get? I'm in the market now for the Hobie. Hobie has this unbelievable, complete fishing kayak with bait tank and holders for rods and reels and I'm in the market for that. You ever done that? You ever gone out there kayak fishing?
Yeah, those fishing kayaks are pretty sweet now. They have them all dialed in with fish finders and live wells and rod holders and all the jazz. I don't personally do that. I like to get on the boat myself and head out, but I see a lot of people that are doing it here in Marina Del Rey and also in the South Bay, kind of all over. It's nice to be able to be portable, do freshwater and saltwater with it, but again, I like to go offshore and pull on big fish.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, I'm a little scared of that still. It's great. How was the show for you? Did you meet a lot of people? Because you had a booth at the show with the Marina Del Rey Anglers, and then you're part of what's the company that you're part of? Because I saw you at the big booth.
Yeah, Abbott Fishing Reels. So we have Marina Del Rey Anglers is your local nonprofit fishing club based out of Marina Del Rey, supporting our youth fishing programs, our veterans fishing programs, and then also our conservation efforts through the white sea bass grow-out programs. But then how I make money, I am the sales director over at Abbott Fishing Reels, a conventional reel company that's based out of Chatsworth, California.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, because, that looked like some, deep-sea big fishing equipment, something I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, we use it. Everything from minnows to makos is what I tell people you can catch on our reels.
Oh, no kidding. You catch a minnow?
Yeah, you have to catch bait for the big fish.
Oh, okay. Well, I used to have a neighbor, and what he would do is he would put a light in his dock at night, and he had holes in a trash can, and then he would sink it. And then all the fish would come. What are those? Are those sardines or those minnows? What's he getting in his slip? Because he pulled the trash can up and it'd be full of bait. What is that? It was
probably sardines, maybe some anchovies, maybe some mackerel. All sorts of things will be in the marinas here.
God, that is interesting. All right, let's give a plug to the Marina Del Rey Anglers. Tell us and also the Halibut Derby. Tell us. Let's do a pre-show because you're definitely coming back on when we get closer to the Halibut Derby.
No, definitely. So we were at the Hall show down in Long Beach over the weekend of January 30th to February 2nd, and what we were doing was promoting the 50th annual Marina Del Rey Halibut Derby. It's actually the longest-running public fishing tournament in the state of California. This year is our 50th year. It's taking place on May 31st and June 1st in Marina Del Rey. The fishing area is pretty much all of Santa Monica Bay from Point Dume down to Point Vicente, and you can check out more of the information at halibutderby.com. But like I said, Marina Del Rey Anglers and the Halibut Derby, all the proceeds benefit our youth fishing program, also our veterans fishing program, and our white sea bass grow-out programs.
And plug the website if people want to find out about it. What's the website?
halibutderby.com.
And you guys meet at Del Rey Yacht Club. I've had a lot of guests. I've talked a lot about Del Rey Yacht Club. So you're a member there. Let's give a little plug for Del Rey Yacht Club. How's Del Rey doing?
Yeah. Delray is awesome. I love Delray Yacht Club. It's like an extra family that I never knew I needed. Over down in the marina, we have our meetings every second Thursday of the month at the Delray Yacht Club. If you are interested in checking out the yacht club or you want to check out Marina Delray Anglers, you can go to mdranglers.com.
All right, that's awesome. All right, I want to ask you, because I don't think I've asked you, how you got started. Were you a young kid with Dad? Did you later on in life get have some friends? How'd you get started? Because you're like a fishing guru now.
Yeah, so I was a young kid actually with my mom. It's just been my mom and I my entire life, and she got me into fishing. It's funny now when I go out on my long trips, my 7 days, my 8 days, my 16 days, or I'm going all over the world, she says, I did this to you. I never thought that you were going to be a fisherman. I always wanted you to be a lawyer or a politician. I never thought in the world that you would be a fisherman. So life takes you on different ventures, but you got to do what makes you happy. So I got started with her at a young age. She took me into a couple different places. I grew up in New York, and so grew up surf casting for striped bass and bluefish on the beach, and then also fishing for fluke and flounder and porgies and things like that up in New York, and then started getting into more big game stuff as I grew up a bit. And once I caught my first marlin, I was 8 years old, outside of Costa Rica. It was the first marlin I ever caught. It was about a 350-pound blue marlin, and that's really when it set in. Since then, it's just been me chasing sea monsters all over the world.
My dad was a deep sea fisherman, and we had a swordfish on the wall in his study, and a little too much fishing for last week. We had Dave Estes, what's his boat? The Robalo Mahalo. I keep forgetting the name of his boat. But Dave was a fantastic guest, and he's a fisherman. He goes out there. He always tries to get me out there. On small boats, if I catch the fumes, I get sick. I got to go on bigger boats, and I got to maybe go on the seawall. And, I enjoy it. That's why I want to get a kayak. That'll be a lot of fun. I should get Hobie on the show one time. But we talked about a little bit about the weather. He was very knowledgeable. If you look at last week's show with Dave Estes, we talked about the Santa Anas. I didn't know the Santa Anas, what do they call them? The Devil's Wind. The Santa Anas, we get it a dozen, as few as 3 or 4 times a year, but as many as a dozen or more, up to 15 times a year. So I had no idea. And he talked about the Santa Anas and how it affects. Do you keep up on weather? Are you a weatherman?
Yeah, you have to when you go offshore. It's really important to be able to forecast and see what you're going to be getting into before you get out there, because tides turn very quickly, and then if you have some extra wind with that, it can get very sketchy very quick.
Well, as a sailor, I'm surrounded by people that know what they're doing, and I have Predict-A-Wind. Another somebody else I should get on the show. All the sailors use Predict-A-Wind, and they're as much as a year out, and as you get closer, it gets more accurate. But Predict-A-Wind, an app on my phone, which, by the way, you can't see when you're out there on the water. Mobile phones are absolutely useless. That's why radios are important. But I get my accurate news from NOAA and Predict-A-Wind, and I'm surrounded by people that are experts that know what they're doing. So I've never really had to pay attention, and it's kind of an amazing thing how fishermen, they're so in tune. You mentioned the sea bass. I had the guy that runs the sea bass. He's stocking the oceans and stuff, and I got to get him back on. That was actually a couple years ago. And do you know about that? Do you know about how we're stocking our oceans up right here in Marina Del Rey?
Yeah, exactly. So what we have in Marina Del Rey is one of the grow-out pens that's provided by Hub's SeaWorld Research Institute. And so what Hubs does is they're the scientific side of what SeaWorld is. They do all the data collection, the tagging, the collecting of the brood stock, and then helping with the actual stock enhancement. So there's a program that's here in the state called the OREP panel, which is the Ocean Resource Enhancement and Hatchery Program. And essentially what they do is there's 11 different grow-out pens from San Diego all the way up to Santa Barbara. And we have one in Marina Del Rey that is ran by the Marina Del Rey Anglers Pen Pals is what we call them. Oh. And we have, at the moment, we have about 3,800 babies that are going to actually get released. As of right now, it's scheduled for March 6th. things kind of change, but that's the day that we're going to be taking them out on the Betty O and releasing them.
Also, that's an angler program. That I didn't know. So that's amazing, right there in the marina. So that's a lot of fish. They must. What are they stocking the whole, Pacific Ocean?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's something that a lot of people are just concerned about the actual levels of white sea bass, especially down in our area, south of Point Conception, considered the southern zone of California waters. The white sea bass kind of went away for a while, and then they were wondering where they all went. I mean, they were traveling. That's the thing. They're very migratory fish. They go all the way from down to Cabo, south of Baja California Sur, and then they'll go all the way up north of Vancouver.
Oh, no
so they move, but what we like to do is be able to see where they are in our area. So all the fish that we have in our pens, they have a microchip that's tagged, that's put in their cheek. It's probably size of I'd say a tenth of a thin fingernail, teeny tiny microscopic, almost sized chip, and they're put into there. And so what we can see is that when these fish are caught, if they have a microchip in them. So that's why if you've ever heard of the sea bass head collection program, when people go and catch their white sea bass, it's critical to keep the head so that we can send it back in the hubs and see where it was caught and if it has a tag in it. Chances are right now the estimate's about 10 to 20% of the fish that are caught have had a tag in them of the ones that the heads are actually being collected. We actually had one of our members this past December that caught a fish. It was a 67-pound white sea bass that was released from our pen 21 years ago, and it was caught this year or this past year in 2024. So it's really cool to see it come full circle.
Oh, my. Who tags these fish? What do they round them up and tag them when they're little? I don't understand the tagging.
When they're teeny tiny little fletchlings, it's really cool. That's a whole different can of worms if you want to get into it. But check out what Hubs does. They have. So with the hatchery program, they have all these little baby fish, and they'll have hundreds of thousands of them that get distributed throughout the state. So like I said, in Marina Del Rey, we have almost 4,000. Down in Hubs, they have closer to 60,000. So they send them down this thing called a sluice. It's like a water slide for fish. And so they put them as their babies on there, and every single one of them is hand-tagged.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So they have all the scientists that are down there. They sit in kind of like an assembly line, and they send the fish down, tag the fish, and move them, kind of push them into the bays from there.
Interesting. So when you release the babies that you have right now, Marina Del Rey, what's that process, and where are you going to release them?
So we get them when they're about 1.5 to 2 inches in size. They weigh just a few grams, and then we grow them out. We received our fish in late October, and then we're going to, like I said, we're going to be releasing them on March 6th. This year we're actually doing an experiment to see on the survival rate and how we do it, because chances are some of them will not make it. That's just kind of how it goes between sea lions and birds and things like that. But by being able to take them out and actually release them by hand on the reefs, it's a much higher chance of survival than it is to just drop them and let them go.
Oh, wow. God, that's fascinating.
So we load up the Betty O. Captain Mike is kind enough to let us take out the Betty O. We do a bunch of trips, and we load up his bait tank with fish, and then we release all of them.
I got to get Captain Mike on the show. The Betty O has been around for a long, long time. And it's
104 years old this year.
Oh, is that right? Wow. So it's in where did it start out? Do you know the history of the Betty O?
Yeah, Betty O started in Long Beach. It was originally a passenger ferry to bring people between Long Beach and Avalon. And then it moved up to Redondo Beach, and then when it had a retrofit, it came up here to Marina Del Rey.
Yeah, I'd like to get Captain Mike on the show. I'd like to have him tell some stories on, guests that he's had on. Has he ever done a Betty O wedding? Any fishermen that have gotten married on the boat?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he has. He's done pretty much everything under the sun. There's only one thing that hasn't happened, and it's bluefin tuna that hasn't been landed on the Betty O. That's my goal for this year, is to make that happen.
Get a bluefin. Well, I saw last year sometime, I had my guest last week, David Estes, is a incredible guy, and he said, I think it was him, he sent me a YouTube video. And it was a celebration, the first catch of the year in Japan, $1 million bluefin.
$1.35 million.
I couldn't believe it. What kind of fish is a $1 million fish?
So what they do over in Japan at the Tsujiki and the Toyoso fish market, A sign of good luck is by bringing good fortune into your business, you want to spend a lot of money on that first fish. So the guys over there get into a bidding war and want to have that one first big bluefin that's going to be auctioned off be the most expensive one, because the theory is if you spend a lot of money on it, it's going to bring you a lot of money in the year. So that's the whole concept behind it. So this year, that one bluefin, I believe it was about 650 pounds. It sold for 1.35 million US.
Oh my goodness, man! Kind of like our, groundhog. Good luck day.
Yeah, sees the shadow. It's coming out. No, it's except that one. That tuna must be packed with gold.
Yeah, I imagine. Wow, that's incredible. Well, let's get back to the Hall show, the Hall Outdoor Adventure Show, because I'm a real fan. I ages ago I went with my dad, and the scouts used to go there. I'd like to do something with Bart Hall and get the scouts back out there. Make this.
Yeah, definitely. That would be super cool. The Hall show is a special show. It's been going on. This year was, I believe, the 77th year of what originally was the Fred Hall show, and then turned into the Bart Hall and Hall family shows down in Long Beach. So, it's been a critical component for perpetuating fishing and just sportsman outdoor, like hunting, fishing, boating, camping in Southern California for that long. It's a very implemental part of it.
Well, yeah, he does it. There's a Pomona show, of course, the Long Beach show, the Del Mar show, and he's got something coming up later on in the year. He was my New Year's guest. He was my New Year's show. And he talked about his dad and starting, I think he said 1947. So it's been going on for ages. And I did, that on the last day, Sunday, I saw a lot of families with kids, and that was really nice to see. And they, of course, out in where the food trucks were, they were able to go out there and learn how to cast and catch fish, and it was really exciting. I love the hall shows.
The trout pond's a special place for a lot of kids. It's what kind of gets them into it, if they've never done it before.
Aside from your booth, what was your favorite booth? Did you get a chance to walk around, or were you too busy?
Yeah, I was kind of all over the place. There's always some really cool things to see at the show. I'm a fan of just what the culture is in general, but being around everybody else is not cool to see. Iserline does a knot tying competition for people to test their knot skills.
Oh, I saw that.
And
that was great.
Yeah, that's always a fun one. That's something that's engaging to get people to go do. It's always nice to go see all the new boats. John Petty, the goldsmith that's there, he always has some amazing pieces that he's displaying of custom fish, and whatever you want to do, he does it. It's really cool to see. All the different facets of what the fishing industry brings into one room.
Yeah, Turner's had a big footprint. I saw all kinds of people walking around with the little yellow, tag.
The little yellow flag, exactly.
Yeah, so they don't poke someone's eye out. So that was kind of interesting. But I'll tell you,
all the retailers this year had a great presence. San Diego Tackle Traders, Bob Sands, Island Tackle, Turner's. They had some incredible deals and everything that was going on at the show.
Yeah, a lot of. I'll tell you my favorite. I had two favorite booths. Of course, I always buy presents when you walk in. We had the guy with the barbecues. The barbecue sauces. So I'm a big fan of that. So last year that was my pick. This year, I had two favorites. One was the nut booth. They were on either side. They had, 500 different versions of dried fruits and nuts, and I was with the Coast Guard Auxiliary. We had a booth, the civilian volunteers that augment the Coast Guard and provide public safety and patrols in the marinas, and so I was part of that. And also the West Side the South Bay and West Side Members Council for the NRA, providing safety training and supporting competition. So I liked their booth. But the real favorite booth that I liked was right in front. There were two. There was Mammoth Lakes, and they had some presentations up there because of the photos. They had the most amazing photos of all the areas around. And then right next to them, with unbelievable photos, was Central Coast, California. So all kinds of trips. They had everything from June Lake to Mammoth Lakes, and it was unbelievable. You saw some great photos of kayakers. You saw fishermen, mountain bikers, and they had great photos. So I stared at all those. So those were my favorite booths this time. I invited him on the show. Hopefully I'll get that because there was a presentation where one of the nonprofits attached to the group, and I'm drawing a blank on what they actually call themselves. They're out there in the lakes and the rivers picking up all the trash. And they talked about the astronomical, tonnage of stuff that they pick up. They're keeping our waterways clean and healthy. And so, it was an amazing thing what they do, all volunteers and divers. So they had a presentation on that. So I invited them on the show, hopefully talk about that. But I wanted to just pack up and go to Mammoth, and it's not just for skiing. So there's a lot of fishing activity. Those are my favorite booths. And although I'll tell you, I walked around. I'm seriously looking at a center console boat. I like the Robalo. Robalo had a great boat. I've talked to a lot of people that have told me I didn't know they were one of the great boats of for fishermen and on the water. So they had a great center console trailerable boat with a decent price. And then of course there was the Chris Craft that had this very expensive but spectacularly gorgeous. Just a center console, I think it was a 24. And then right up front was who was it? The Bayliner. Bayliner had
the Bayliners and the trophies.
Yeah, the trophy boats. How are those? If you had to buy
they're good.
A small trailerable boat, what kind of boat do you have?
My boat, I have a 54-foot Mediterranean sport fisher. It's go out there and venture type of boat, but it always just depends what you're suited for. If you want to run gas, if you want to run diesel, if you want to go far, if you want to be able to trailer and take it places, it really just depends on whatever your needs are. Those trophies are great little options to start with. I always tell people if you're unsure of the type of boat that you want to get at first, the best type of boat for you to get is a friend with one. And that way you can figure out what you like and what you don't like.
Well, what I want to do is I want a trailer boat. I want to be able to do a race committee. So I want to be able to go out there and be a mark set boat. So I don't want something too big. And I don't want to get a semi to trailer it. And I'm looking for center console. I'd like to go down to, Redondo or Catalina. And also, go fishing and be able to get out there on the sea. So I'm looking for something small. Small little trailer boat.
Get yourself a little pilot house. You can get one of the little Defiant. I think they're Defiants. They also have the Parkers. They're like the 21, 22 footers. You get a little center console. I'm from Florida originally, so the boats that I grew up run and gun fishing. That's all you do on center consoles, as opposed to having, to tuck away from the wind and the elements out here in California. If you're going to be going over to Catalina, though, it's very important to make sure that you have something that is seaworthy in case. People like to think that the seas are always nice, like how they are when you go over in the morning. But when you come back, if you're not leaving there by 12, 1 o'clock, it can be a whole different world coming back. So it's critical to have a boat that can handle those waves when you're coming back, especially if you're coming out to Marina del Rey. So for what you're saying, going out of Redondo, going out of Marina, going over to Catalina, I'd recommend something at least in that 22 to 26-foot range to kind of get started. Single engine, ideally with 2 engines.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Well, Miles, has been great having you on. I want to get you back on as we get closer to the Halibut Derby. Come on and let's plug and promote that, the Halibut Derby and the Marina del Rey Anglers. So, it's fantastic. I want to thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Rick. I really appreciate it. And remember, Halibut Derby is May 31st and June 1st this year in Marina del Rey. Check it out at halibutderby.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Miles. Well, that's all the time that we have for you today. Hope you enjoyed our show. As always, we're so very fortunate to have such wonderful and exciting guests. And I want to thank our guest today, Miles from Marina del Rey Anglers, the Halibut Derby. And let's not forget the Coasties, protecting our waters, America's lifesavers and guardians of the sea. We're going to have some Coasties on the show as we get closer to the Torrance Armed Forces Parade. You're going to see the Coast Guard and at Fleet Week at the Battleship Iowa. So we'll talk about that. We have some great guests coming on. So here at the Boating Hour with Captain Rick, we cover everything that sails, motors, and floats from San Diego to Santa Barbara. Thanks for being with us today, and be sure to join us next week and every Saturday at 4 p.m. on AM 870. Thanks to our sponsors for the show today. For a healthy gut, Livia One Probiotics and Raycom radios, reliable two-way radios throughout Southern California without drop and dead zones and all the inherent limitations of other communication systems. Don't forget to visit us on the web at theboatinghour.com and now on social media, The Boating Hour with Captain Rick. Keep your emails coming. You can reach me at CaptainRick@theboatinghour.com. Captain Rick saying ahoy at Fair Windsall.